Somebody let me know when we're up live.
We're up.
We're up? All right. Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, March 9th, 2021. We're here to conduct a regular session of the Hunt County Commissioners Court. This meeting will be conducted by telephone or video conference in order to advance the public health goal of social distancing to slow the spread of coronavirus, COVID-19. Due to the COVID-19 crisis, the governor's order regarding social distancing and special rules issued by the state regarding open meetings, there will be no public access to the location described above, which is 2700 Johnson Street. Normally we have a public testimony time at the first of the meeting, but those that are listening in, I want to let you know it'll be conducted later in the meeting. You're welcome to go to our website, and there's a banner there for comments to the court. You can put in your comment, and it can be read to the court at the appropriate time. Or if you wish to speak directly to the court, you can put your phone number in, and someone from the court will call you during the meeting, and you'll be able to speak to the court at that time. At this time, I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask Commissioner Martin to lead us in prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our flags.
Shall we bow? Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for everything that you have given us. We ask you to give us patience, understanding, knowledge that we might be wise in the decisions that we make and be righteous. We ask you to continue blessing this great country that we live in, and all things we ask in the Lord Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, everyone. This time I'll call roll. Commissioner Hutchins, Strait, Martin, and Harrison are all present. I'm Judge Stovall. I'll be presiding over the meeting. Commissioners, you have the minutes from the last session on February 23rd. I'd entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Again, on our agenda is public testimony. We will be doing that later in the meeting, so everybody will have time to go to the website and get your phone number or comments to that. New business. Commissioners, you have the consent calendar in front of you. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action item, we're going to skip number one. Number two, to recognize the State of Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts recertification of Cheryl Lowry. Entertain a motion for the acceptance of her certificate of completing her education and training.
So moved. Second.
And motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action item number three, presentation from Freedom Rail Group.
Okay, if I just hand these over.
Absolutely, that's fine.
Thank you.
You got one for the auditor too?
Give one to Bruce.
You got an extra one?
Bruce.
Here you go, Bruce. Oh, he got one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time this morning.
My name is Jeff Letter, so I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Freedom Rail Group. And Daniel is here with me, Daniel White, he's the Chief Financial Officer, so hopefully that clears up who we are and what we are. But under the company, I also have the railroad, the Northeast Texas Connector, used to be Blacklands. So this is the third presentation we've given to Commissioners Court in various counties. So I'd like to walk through this with you and talk a little bit about where the railroad is, what it's doing, and some opportunities that may or may not exist.
Jeff, before you start, let me say that we got Greg Sims and Bonnie
Yes.
Hunter, who are both on the board of
correct.
Blackland, and they're both EDC, Greg from Greenville and Bonnie from Commerce. We got Summer Spurlock, the city manager from Greenville, and our mayor, Dave Dryling from Greenville. Bonnie, do you have anybody with you? I don't recognize anybody in the audience. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. So I just wanted you to know those were in the audience.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
So, as you pointed out, we have a 12-member board made up of 6 different counties. We operate only in 3 counties. We are a mile into Titus. We don't really count it. A mile into Delta, and then we have 23 miles of track that is inactive today that is in Collin County. At some point, we may look to do that, but I'd like to walk through this presentation real fast, and then we can go through some questions. Daniel and I will kind of tag team it. One of the things, when we took over in July of last year, the railroad had been dilapidated for some time, had not been taken care of. There were some customer concerns and stuff like that. So we have, as we'll illustrate here, spent quite a bit of time, effort, and money to make sure that, one, our employees are safe. Number 2, the community is safe, which is why I'm here today to talk a little bit about. And then number 3, that our customers are served in the manner that they should be. So we operate 7 days a week. We do interchange with the UP and the KCS. And we have 4 or 5 customers in Greenville, obviously working on some more. So one of the things that we're regulated by is the Federal Railroad Administration. They came out in October early and did a complete track inspection, and to say it was pathetic would be an understatement. So we had 103, they weren't violations, but they were actual findings that we needed to correct within 30 days. One of the reasons that the railroad had these is, even though it's accepted track out here, it is still, there's hazardous commodities that do travel on it. So you have FSTI, which is here in Greenville, and you have Royal Oak, which is here in Greenville. Even that wax is considered a hazardous material. So what the regulation states is every crossing, public crossing, has to be within Class 1 standards, can't be in accepted standards. And every bridge, which there are 70 across this 65 and a half miles, has to be within Class 1 standards, as well as 100 feet on each side of that bridge. So there was a lot of work to be done, and we'll illustrate that here in a second. But the FRA inspector's comments were there. One of the really unfortunate things about where we're at with the weather in Northeast Texas with the water, obviously the bridges, but we also have a lot of vegetation. Slide 3, I'll run through this quickly, is just a breakdown by county and city for across the NETC Railroad. You can see the major Hopkins at 34, Franklin at 11, and Hunt County at 20 miles. So that's a breakdown real fast. Slide 4 has is just an illustration to demonstrate where the railroad does operate to and from. Slide 5, as I talked about vegetation, that this is currently what it looks at. This is off the side of an engine, so you can see how close it is to the engine. We have almost 80% of our railroad has some sort of vegetation or a tunneling effect because of all the trees and everything else that have taken place. Slide 6, same thing, just another demonstration. Slide 7, which should be of great interest to the people here in Hunt County, is the Sabine River Bridge. This bridge, as you can see, is 20 feet high. This, on each side of this illustration, is what has been gathered up as the water has ran over the past, I'll just say, probably year or 2. We took the time, it took us about 8 hours to have that cleaned out, professionally cleaned out. So if you look at slide 8, unfortunately, once we cleaned it out, that's the way the bridge looked. So I think we spent close to 65, 70,000 on this bridge alone, and we found it, obviously it's a lifeline to the customers here in Greenville, because if we can't get across the bridge, we can't provide any service to them. So this was a very important bridge. We ended up doing 6 bridges in this entire FRA audit that we had, and this was one. So you can see the Sabine River Bridge. Century Lake, which is over in Hopkins County, on slide 9. Another illustration, we've got refrigerators. I think this was a dishwasher down there, and you can see once it's cleaned up that the water's allowed to flow and stuff like that. One of the things that I think is important as we talk about vegetation and we talk about community and crossings, so one of the things that we take very seriously, in my 25 years of railroading, I've been to over 1,000 crossing accidents. So I take it very seriously. We get out, we educate the children at the school level because they tend to educate their parents even more. We try to educate the community as much because now they're seeing more trains than they've ever seen before. If you're operating 7 days a week, you're gonna see more trains. And finally, we spend some time with the local municipalities, whether that's officer on a train, whether that's doing stuff with hazardous materials with the fire department or first responders. So we take that very seriously. One of the things that concerns me greatly out here is our crossings need to be cut back to 40 feet within 100 feet of every crossing. So we've got a lot of work to do. The reason I say that to each of you is, unfortunately, if we hit somebody at a crossing, they're not only going to go after me, they're going to go after the community, they're going to go after the county. So I want everybody to kind of understand how that works. Hopefully this was a good illustration of what we're up against. This is just a very, very limited look of what we've been taking so far. I'll let Daniel kind of speak to the next few slides and some opportunities.
So we have a solution to the issue. We think that just hiring a company to come out and run the railroad for 440 days, 8 hours a day, is not worth the investment because it's a $1.2 million to have a company come do that. However, the machine that they have, we could procure and do the same thing with. Man it with our labor, cover it with our insurance, our liability. And so what we're suggesting and hoping to get your support on is that we purchase this John Deere excavator. We fit it with a high rail package, and then on slide 11, it comes with a mower attachment. This thing will cut down 8-inch to 12-inch trees whole. It will clean up vegetation much faster and safer than anything else that we could use. It has been brought up to use spray, but because there's so many bridges and waterways, you don't know where that will run off into. So this is the best solution that we could find. Along with that, on slide 12, this was 20 hours of demonstration. So on the left, you have before, on the right, you have the after, but it took them 20 hours to just do this much. So as you can tell, that's what it needs to look like all the way down the railroad. So it's going to take some time. But the idea is that we come together with all the counties that actually use the railroad and have them pitch in to purchase the machine, and then we will operate it. We will man it with our power. We'll do the maintenance, and we will also loan it back to the counties once we've cleaned up the railroad and done the first pass. Because you're not going to need to run it nonstop once it's cleaned up, but it is going to take 1.5 years to.
Yes, you will.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. My question before we get into this right here, would you advise y'all just took Freedom Rail Group over this last year, correct?
Yes, sir. We took it over in.
What type of revenues are you having right now? Also, is there any counties given to this? I know that we're part of it. This has always been worked. The judges basically been handling this for several years and being a partner in reference to this. Where does your money come from right now?
So currently, our revenue is only coming from customers.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Carload revenue.
Customers?
Revenue.
Customer
Yeah,
carloads.
customers, correct.
We have no outside funding.
We're a hauling carrier for both KCS and UP. So what happens is a customer goes in and says, I want a car from a carload of grain from North Dakota. And they get a price from UP or KCS. We get a revenue share of that.
In reference to these bridges and stuff, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I think we need to go one way at a time. This comes under the transportation aspect in reference to whether it be the federal government or state also. I'm assuming that the state is also part of that. Have they been able to get any grants in reference to building these bridges? Have y'all looked into that?
So we have looked into grants. We've done a lot of work with TxDOT. It's mostly in the crossing, okay? And I can think right now, I just approved, well, I approved it. I sent it to TxDOT for approval. The Stredget Road in Commerce is one of them. There is a road in Mount Vernon. We have 108 crossings, but only 20 of them are active. So those are the ones that they've gone after first because all of the equipment inside of those has been dilapidated. As far as grants, we are working on that. We have a dedicated grant writer who spends time. What we've run into in the past year is that everything has been kind of slow given the circumstances. So going forward, we are working right now on a possible grant that would be state funded, privately funded, and federally funded. But that is, you have to remember, this railroad needs $18.5 million worth of work before we even get into vegetation.
And the reason I bring this all up in reference to the highway department, you might check on this, as far as the rematch in reference to county bridges, and then they come in and build state. Find out whether that money that we put up as a rematch basically can also be used in reference to transportation, which the state is over the transportation, to my thought, as far as rails also. So that might be something to look at in reference to that. And
I appreciate that.
Seriously, if you will look into it, I believe it might be something that might help out on some of the rematch we've got going.
We are also looking at FEMA as well on this last event that came through because we have a bridge that was damaged in the runoff from, I think it was called, did you call it Uri or whatever the last one that came through?
Right.
There's a guy by the name of Sidney Newman with TxDOT. If you will, write that name down and contact him in reference to this, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'll let you
Absolutely.
continue. I apologize.
No, don't.
Thank you.
That's, the more contacts we can get, the better. Thank you. So if you look at slide 13, that's just the cost of the equipment and modifying it to fit on the rail. Slide 14, Mr. Martin, you said we just acquired this, and we did. We won it in July of last year, 2020. And part of our bid to the NETEX board was that we would be putting in $300,000 annually and partnering with the communities to, for them to put up around $200,000 through the different facilities, whether it's the city, the county, or the EDCs, whatever works. And so 15 shows you what we've spent with the FRA coming in and kind of motivating us a little faster than we would have done probably. They highlighted all the problem areas and we had to get them fixed. So total cost, this was through December. I did not update it yet. I wanted to give everybody the same presentation. And we spent over $500,000. We did 8 bridges. Sorry, we've done 8 so far. We've done 6 as of December, and it equaled $174,000. We've bought 800 ties that we have replaced. That's around 80 grand. And then we've had a bunch of defects fixed and corrected through outside parties, and that's the other 272,000. So we're definitely spending more than what we initially committed to on an annual basis. Now, hopefully that'll drop down some as we have taken care of the big items that the FRA pointed us to. But we still have bridges that are getting replaced. Like I said, we've done 2 more since then. There was another $70,000 there for those 2. And it's a lot of work and a lot of capital for us. Being a small privately owned company, we need the help that we can get. So that's why we're going after the grants. That's why we're here talking to you. We need your help and your support. So if you look at slide 16, this is how we broke it up by county. So we were trying to find an equitable way to do it, and it made sense to us for how many miles of track versus the ratio of what we need to cover.
Excuse me, y'all have another one of these to hand to the city or the people from, let the city, I think, Greg, y'all have seen all this. Y'all haven't seen it?
He's seen a version of it.
Okay. They're on page 16 of what they're reporting right now for the contribution.
Yep. So we've been to Franklin, we've been to Hopkins, and now we're here at Hunt. And after discussions with Judge Newsom and Judge Lee, the best course that we saw was a service contract, so that we don't have to worry about how do you get money from public to private. And Judge Newsom said this is what they have done before. They do a service contract, and they can contribute that way. How they break it up between city and county, we were leaving it up to the counties and the cities to work together to talk about how they wanted to do it, but we've given the presentation to both cities and county in the courts. So what we're asking from Hunt would be about $27,000 total, and then we would like to get 13 from Commerce and 13 from Greenville to contribute to the project. This, of course, is the help that we need to keep the rail safe. We believe that the overgrown vegetation could create an issue for all of us, and we would definitely like to avoid that at all costs.
Okay, thank you. Just so the public knows, that probably should have done this up front, Netex Railroad is owned by Hunt County, or Collin County, Hunt County, Hopkins County, Delta County, Franklin County, and Titus County. So the county has some ownership responsibility in Netex Railroad. So y'all aren't here, Freedom Rail's not here asking us to do something with something that we don't have a legal interest in. I guess, I understand some of your, your problem. I guess I question, if we have that many bridges and that many ties to replace, why are we going to spend this much money to clear the vegetation all the way back? I mean, we've got much smaller, we just leased a John Deere, or what's it
Cat.
called?
Cat.
As a cat?
Yeah.
Excavator, wheeled excavator that's costing us
$5,400 a month.
$5,400 a month, that would more than handle this, at least to get it back away from to enlarge that tunnel pretty well. It won't take, it may not reach the whole right of way, or take a little, because it's a little smaller machine, but it's a whole lot less money, and you need to be spending money, we need to be spending money on ties and bridges, sounds to me like. And I know from your speech before, or talk before, you don't want to go back and redo it, but I can tell you, every one of these commissioners will tell you, you're going to keep going back and doing it, because those things do grow. And the other comment is, y'all looked at any kind of spraying. We've been looking at spraying that will kill back the vegetation, and it's a much cheaper way to go. And have y'all investigated
Well,
that?
There's a couple things. I'll answer the first part first. In order to put ties in, this vegetation is going to have to be taken back, because it has overgrown. Even there are places in the ties where we're going to have to get into that. So that may be some spray. We have looked at sprays. We've looked at different herbicides, different things like that. One has you spray one in the spring, you spray another one in there. There is some concern with the waterways, but we could possibly tackle that. We don't think that that's going to be a long-term solution, because we're still going to have to cut back the brush at some point. The other thing with this machine that we're talking about is a lot of our bridges, the debris that's on one side that has come down from wherever has to be taken off at the bridge. So that's another facet of what this particular machine does. When we looked at it, it has a bucket attachment with a thumb, as well as the mower attachment, so that you can reach over and clear these bridges, which is one of the biggest problems we have right now with them, the wood and everything else just beating them up.
May I ask you this in reference to it as a thumb? Does it have a mechanical thumb
Correct.
aspect to it, not the one like this?
No, what, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm
Okay,
not
what
a-
extension is that? Because I noticed you did, you're cutting a lot out there. What was required to be?
It was 30, it cuts back 32 feet is what they say. I
From
think
where it's
I-
mounted?
It's correct, from
From
the
where
center
it's
of the
mounted.
rail. But I think it's, if you would ask me, it says, you know, it's specified to do 32 feet. I think it's closer to probably 26 or 28 when it was done. That quarter-mile section that he showed you in that one slide, that took 20 hours to do, that was about 30 feet back when we measured it. And it was at a crossing in Saltillo, just as a reference. Saltillo, is that how you say it? Yeah, okay.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to say how to say it. So I think there's a concern there with, one, being able to put ties in, we're gonna have to get this vegetation out of there anyway to actually go in and do that. And when I say 18.5 million, think about this, there's 222,000 ties on this railroad, and that's only every third tie. That's 78,000 ties to get it to what is considered Class 2. Why do we want it to Class 2? One, for safety aspect. Number two, we cannot operate our entire railroad today. So if I have a customer in Greenville, which is a perfect example, and they get cars interchanged from the UP in Mount Pleasant, it takes me 2 days to get them back to them. So what are they losing? Well, they're not able to manage their supply chain as nice as they would want to, and with fewer cars and be able to spend products. So we want to be able to go from one side of the railroad to the other in a couple of hours. And at 25 miles an hour, you can do that, versus the 10 that we go today. And in some spots, we go less than that because we know that there's some bad areas. So there are, you know, I don't know if I answered your question. I think the smaller one, while it may work in some areas, I think overall for the railroad with the bridges and having to we cleaned 8 bridges and it took 8 hours to do each one of them. That doesn't mean that it's gonna happen every time, but it's certainly, there's enough water that flows through in northeast Texas here where I think it's gonna continue to be an issue. So that's one of the reasons we chose that machine as well.
Okay. Commissioner, you got any other questions?
Pardon me if this is an ignorant question, but even with the application of herbicides, there's still going to be an initial clearing that needs to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. So
At
that-
some point, yeah.
That still has to happen.
yeah,
initially.
absolutely.
On page 8,
Okay.
on page 8, I'm looking at the after. Is that a sound bridge?
Yeah, the bridge is, it's actually been repaired since then. So we cleaned it out and then we repaired it. I was just I've got other pictures of it. But no, when you start looking at some of the timbers underneath that bridge got about $40,000 worth of repair. There's bridges out here that I can tell you at some point, Commissioner, were on fire, but I don't know how long ago. And we've had to go back and say, okay, what is actually going on there? There are also some bridges out here that, given a year or two, will be made into culverts because they don't need to be a bridge.
Commissioner, you got any other questions? Mayor, Greg, any of y'all got any, Bonnie, any of y'all got questions? Summer, y'all got any questions? Comments? Absolutely.
Yes.
Please do.
Good morning, Commissioners. Greg Sims, Greenville EDC. Y'all put me on the board, NETEX board, I think it was around 2012, something like that.
Yeah.
I was on there with Judge Horn, and when Judge Horn left the board, he appointed, or the commissioners appointed Bonnie Hunter back here to the board. We're your representatives for Hunt County as far as the whole railroad. And it's been a chore, as y'all know. All the things.
We've rode you pretty hard.
Oh, man, I've got a lot of gray hairs, and lost a lot of sleep. And, you know, Bonnie and I, you know, we talk a lot about course because we're Hunt County representatives on this railroad. And, you know, our main concern definitely are the customers, you know, making sure the customers are taken care of. And we were having a lot of problems, either political or, financially, or I don't know what all, y'all know some of the history, but with the other operator. And, definitely you can tell, Jeff's comments about the deferred maintenance, it's 20 years of deferred maintenance. And I know there was a lot of money made on this railroad in 20 years. Where to go? And so, when you have a NETEX railroad that is not, by state law, it cannot tax anyone for funding, just like, a county or a city or a, EDC has property tax or sales tax related to it by state law. These type of railroads, which are nonprofit, don't have the ability to tax. So its only income has really been what its agreement is with its operator to operate cars. And the railroad itself, the operator, I'm talking about the whole operation of NETEX board, the NETEX organization, not Freedom Rail Group. The board gets some revenue off of rail traffic on the line. But it definitely doesn't get enough based on the customer load and the customer basis there to help support 69 miles with 70 bridges over time. So what we're here today is, if this infrastructure was, it's even older than 20 years. We know that. I mean, the infrastructure is so old. It takes a lot of money to upkeep that. And so I know there's been about 6 or 7 federal Tiger grants and previous board members who were on that board. Dr. Jason Davis had, in his expertise at Texas A&M Commerce, filed about 6 or 7 federal grant opportunities during the Obama administration. But as you know, at that time, Texas was not getting any grants from that administration.
Probably not getting any now either.
No. So, those were failed opportunities, certainly that cost us. And, if you go back, you can go online, anyone, it's in the public, and you can look at Consolidated Appropriations Act 2014, I think was our last one that Jason did for us. And it talks about $11 million federal funds request for a total project of $11 million. And it's really good. It talks about the ownership structure, how we got the railroad. There's different sections, or there's segmented sections. There's sections that overlap counties. So it's very, very complicated. But basically, in this report here, which was the last one, $11 million, he called for replacement of, and I think this was going to bring it up to Class 2 standards that Freedom Group has been tasked with their agreement. But replacement of 94,000 mainline and siding cross ties, replacement of 297 switch ties, installation and regulation of 36,000 tons of ballast, surfacing and alignment of 69 miles of track, including siding and spurs, vegetation removal of 502 acres, tie disposal, joint bolt tightening, installation of 20 insulated joints, material delivery, so on and so forth, project and administration.
What year was that done?
2014. I think that was our last one.
And Greg, what was the name of that again?
It was the United States Department of Transportation Consolidated Appropriations Act 2014, FY 2014 Tiger Discretionary Grants. So, and the project name is Northeast Texas Rail Preservation Economic Development Project. So, Dr. Davis, he knows this railroad like nobody's business. I mean, he knows every tie, he knows every section of it. And unfortunately, the past, what happened with the previous operator and the politics situation, Jason got removed from the board, which was a huge loss to our NETEX board. I mean, you talk about taking your brain out of your business and just saying, we don't want you anymore.
He loved railroads.
He loved it. And, it was a big loss to us as a board. I opposed it, totally opposed it, voiced my opinion probably more than I should have in some of those board meetings, but I thought it was a big detriment to our railroad to let him go. Unfortunately, Delta County felt otherwise. So really what it brings us today is, by no fault of Freedom, this is no fault of Freedom, the situation we're in. I mean, Freedom Rail Group was a willing participant operator. We were looking for a new operator back before we had the lawsuit, when the previous operator sued the board, sued the railroad. We had to work out for what did we do? Nothing. It was all on the operator's problems. And we ended up settling with him, but part of the settlement, we had to find an emergency operator within 30, 60 days to serve, the Surface Transportation Board STB rules. Freedom Rail Group stepped up and said they would like to do it. And so I think Jeff and his group, I think they did ride the rail. Did you ride the rail? No, they were not allowed to ride the rail. We only had one other operator to ride the rail, I think, because of the previous operator did not allow anybody on there. He could control that. At the same time, we had an issue with close to the Winfield yard with 7.9 miles of track that NETEX did not own or have lease rights. The operator actually went and did that on his own to kind of have a little stopgap measure in case we needed to move freight. And so we had to work that deal out as well, and that was a big sticking problem because we couldn't get freight to our customers because he owned the little piece before you get to Winfield, or he had lease rights with the UP, and he did that outside the board. And so, Freedom Rail Group came in here and they worked that out, and they worked out other things. I mean, to this day, we haven't had any customer complaints in Greenville. I don't think Commerce has either about delivery. Now, when the lawsuit was going on, all that, we had a ton of complaints. Freight being late, a week late, 2 weeks late. And then also the yard, if you know the railroad, there's a DG&O yard in Greenville. And Blacklands, the other operator, was storing cars in that yard as well, moving them on our track. And I don't think NETEX was getting any money off of that. But, DG&O, if something were to happen, if a bridge were to go out, there are 16 bridges in Hunt County, 16 bridges on the NETEX line in Hunt County. If one of those were to go out where Freedom couldn't get to us from Winfield Yard, the UP Yard, we could get freight on the DG&O line from Dallas. Freedom would have to give them permission. NETEX board have to give them permission to get on our line. They can bring it to Greenville. They can switch on the NETEX line, and then you can actually get on the KCS line here in Greenville as well in a switch. So our Greenville customers would be taken care of at some point. There's cost involved with all this, right? Because the UP owns the line, goes into Mesquite, so they get a piece of the car revenue, right? So I mean, it all comes down to money. Thank you, Gabe. My allergies are killing me. So it all comes down to money, right? So Freedom has to run it 69 miles. He just told you 2 days to get it to Greenville, okay? That is a big detriment when it comes to bringing more rail traffic, more rail volume to Greenville. 2 reasons. Time to get it here. Second reason is how long, if we were to put in like when Rubbermaid was here, they were doing almost 600, 700, 800 cars a month. Can you imagine putting that many cars on this railroad from Winfield? I mean, you can't, there's so much volume get on a piece of infrastructure. We know that. What they're telling you here today is I totally agree with as far as the problem's concerned. The issues that I have, if you have, I got a bid in 2018 here on improving the track in the city limits of Greenville. This would go from the DG&O yard that's in downtown Greenville out to y'all know the Board of Development owns land on the NETEX line. That's where the line stops, the end of the line, right before you get to 1570. I got a bid in 2018 to bring this track in Greenville. The Board of Development was going to try to look at, and maybe I was going to try to come talk to y'all as well, and the city, just like Jeff's doing. But it's $1.8 million basically to improve the track in Greenville to go from downtown Greenville just to the edge of our industrial park. And then I got another bid, it was an extra $400,000 to take the track from the end of our industrial park across 1570, which you've got the grade, remember they had the new highway come in? So you have to build the grade for the railroad. You can't, take it, y'all know that, and take it a steep grade. You gotta be a 0.5% grade to get it across on the other side of 1570. So we could serve all that land on 1570 with rail-served properties. It was only gonna help Blacklands Railroad at the time, the operator. It was gonna help NETEC, it was gonna help us, it was gonna help the county, help the city. So we got those bids. But the problem we ran into is we started having problems with the old operator. At that time, as a staff person, I talked to my board. I said, I'd like to do this, but I don't want to do this with the previous operator we got. We've got to find a new operator that's going to service. And then you throw into that the 16 bridges that go from downtown Greenville to Commerce. Okay? We have given money, the Board of Development has given money into the, quote, if you want to call it, general fund of the NETEC's board, but we didn't do it in the sense like Sulphur Springs. Sulphur Springs EDC they've been given about $25,000 a year into the general fund of the NETEC's railroad. I have a different opinion about how 4A money can be spent. To me, it needs to be spent within the city limits or ETJ, because that's where you collected the funds, okay, and spend it on infrastructure, not on general administration, not on general funds, okay? Sulphur Springs EDC, they have a different opinion about that. That's their own business. That's not my business, okay? So we have paid to rehab crossings in Greenville in the city limits with our money, and the Blacklands, the old operator, had made those improvements based on contracts, and we got the hard contracts, got the project done. So, bottom line is, and I'll cut this off, but bottom line is, if we're going to spend the EDC, or if you go ask the city, or if you go ask the county for dollars, to me, those monies needed to be spent legally on pieces of infrastructure within the county or within the city limits, okay? Commerce, EDC spends money on her rail and her city limits. We spend it on our rail and our city limits. County can take care of the bridges, everything outside the city limits, something like that, okay? Us participating in this plan, which, Jeff called our office, he called me and Bonnie, we had a conversation a month or two ago about this project. I never saw a presentation, but that's my fault, because I haven't been going to their board meetings because of COVID, and they didn't offer Zoom. But at the same time, if we're gonna spend money on it, to me, it needs to be on infrastructure, and it needs to be more than $150,000. It needs to be millions of dollars, couple million, whatever, 3 million, in Hunt County, in Greenville, okay? A piece of equipment, as good as these guys are, I mean, they could end their contract, what happens to the equipment? It goes somewhere else. I'm just saying, I don't think the public needs to be involved with investing in pieces of equipment that can walk off, basically. Nothing against Freedom, because I trust them, they would do it right, they would do us right. But at the same time, we gotta watch where we put our dollars. So that's all I wanted to comment on. Yes, sir.
Question. Basically, we're looking at two, and like I said, we just got this. We're looking at two things. We're looking at either renting or leasing or whatever, a piece of equipment, and you're saying right at $5,000 to $6,000 in reference to it, and that's what we have. Or it's gonna cost $609,335, and that's including $8,900 to deliver the thing. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Oh, and that's one section, and then the other section, if you'll go over to page 16. In actuality, this is the railroad breakdown by county and city. These numbers, for instance, the Hunt County itself would be 27,828, but that doesn't have anything to do with the buy lease type situation or whatever on that piece of equipment. Then Commerce is 13,340, and Greenville 13,340, and that's a total of $54,509 this county together that we're in partnership with. Am I hitting everything on? You're talking about two items, am I correct?
Philip, I'm not sure you call that a partnership. We're investing in something that we own if we choose to do something that way.
I agree with that, and that's the, I agree with that.
This today is for, for freedom, so they know. Some of the commissioners, until I talked about it a couple of meetings ago, they didn't even know NETEX existed or we had an interest in it. So we're, some of this is education for us today. May have to invite you back to have other discussions. We're not going to take action on it today. It's really truly an educational opportunity. I'm glad that Greg was here to speak. We appreciate y'all and what you're doing. We think everything I'm hearing about you, y'all are doing a great job. The judges in other counties are very complimentary of things that y'all are accomplishing, and Greg says, we're not getting complaints anymore from our customers, which is what we're after, and that's what we all need here in the community to continue to keep our industry here. It'll be up to this court at some point in time whether or not we contribute money in whatever form or fashion that may be. And
Let me add one more thing,
Sure.
Judge, if you don't mind. So NETEX as a board, we have money in the bank. Last time I looked, I think it was a couple $100,000 or so. Us as a board, we can go out and borrow this money that they need for this piece of equipment, okay, based on our cash flow and based on the money in our bank as a board. I'm one of 12 members on that board, so I'll only get a half a vote. But, what I'm saying is that our board could go out and borrow the entire amount on that and not come to the counties and ask that. And do what these guys want to do, and that's really the right way to do it because it's serving the entire rail line, and that's what the NETEX board is for. So I just want to offer that too. So.
okay, thank you. Mayor, got any questions? Sure, come up.
Thank you. It's interesting. This is the first time I've seen this kind of a presentation, and obviously the first you've seen it. But it strikes me that first of all, they're looking for $13,000 from Greenville, but that's an annual fee, so that would be a total on a 5-year contract. So the amount that they've identified there, you can take and multiply that, and that makes it a little over $66,000 that they're looking for. I agree 100% with Greg that as far as money that Greenville would contribute should apply within at least our ETJ, more likely within our city limits, because that's where we collect our tax money.
Right.
It's kind of shocking when I look at the bridge that they said they spent $44,000 on, and it's on slide, there it is, slide 8. And they show that, on slide 7, they show all of the debris and everything that was up there, and then slide 8, they've removed the debris. But frankly, looking at that bridge,
No, the bridge is not, this is not completed. I have an additional picture after the fact. This is not, this is what.
Good,
it
because-
looked like.
good,
This is what it
because-
looked like after the
yeah,
debris. So-
because I wouldn't want to drive my
Oh,
car
no, we
across it.
wouldn't. Trust me, no. It's completely, I will send you a personal one. It's completely all straight.
Yeah, they repaired the whole thing.
Okay.
They just didn't
Because
furnish
what
us
we've got here, I wouldn't drive my car
Oh,
across.
I know it.
Let alone,
I wouldn't walk across.
And Mayor, that was our concern too, because, you sit there, you look at it, you go, okay, we've been driving over it for, and let me tell you, most of these bridges were built in the 1920s. The reason I feel halfway decent about these bridges, if you remember, this line had steam engines on it, which are a lot heavier than what the engines we have out here today. So I know that they've got a good foundation. What I was trying to illustrate there, and I did a poor job of explaining, I apologize, is once we pulled 20 feet of brush out of each side of it, because that's how high that bridge is, that's what we found. So there's no reason that nobody would have ever fixed it because they'd never seen it. But once we pulled it out of there, we ended up, that's what we spent the additional, I think it was $60,000 on that bridge to get all the bends correctly. So you see how they're crashed in and
Yeah.
everything? Yeah, no, sir, I will send you a separate one that is, you'd love that bridge if you went over today.
well, I would need to see a next one before you even want to come and talk to the council about asking for money on this.
Just to give an illustration of what the bruises look like and what they look like afterwards, not when they were completely repaired. And I think we have one that hasn't been used.
Thank you. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Bonnie, you got any comments? Summer? Okay.
Judge, I don't know who to direct this question to, but if it was said that Hunt County and these other counties have an ownership interest in the line, but we're also talking about wanting to, I think it's a good question, restrict our expenditures on the portion within our county lines. So I would like clarification now or later on, when we talk about ownership interest, are we talking about interest in the entire line or just the portion that crosses our county? How does that?
Well, I
structure
think
work?
that the way they're proposing it, I mean, we're talking about financing a piece of equipment that'll be used all up and down on the line, and to Greg's point, we need some clarity about who ends up owning that piece of equipment, where it would end up and all that, I think, before
I
we could make
understand, but if a
we can make a
bridge-
decision, but I don't know that there's any, under this proposal, I don't, off the cuff, I can't think of a way we could restrict it to where they'd have to buy a piece of equipment for every county to
Are we gonna
operate
be
in.
sued if a bridge in Hopkins County fails?
Probably not.
Okay.
Greg, can you answer that?
Yes, the county doesn't own anything, okay? It's all in the DTEX board, DTEX Corporation.
That's right.
The county doesn't own anything. They just have, by state law, they're supposed to appoint board members to administer the ownership, which is a nonprofit. And no, anything that happens on the line, the county's not gonna be responsible for. It's gonna be responsible for the operator and the DTEX board.
That's right.
The DTEX organization.
Okay, so for purposes
So
of.
I'm sorry, I
last
misspoke
year-
earlier about us owning it.
That's
We got
okay.
an interest in
So
it,
we
but
appoint
we're appointing board
people to the
members.
board, the board owns, two people to the board.
Yeah.
Two people too, that's fine, and that's your responsibility.
Okay, perfect. That clarifies it in my mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would like to further say this right here, and to me, it is more or less, whether it be a partnership, we actually have very much involved with it. It's for the community. And I feel like basically once we decide what we can do, what's legal and all this, I would be very much in supporting, looking into it, very much so.
Okay. Any other comments from the commissioners? Not, Jeff, thank you. And
Thank you, Judge Stovall.
You bet.
We knew it was gonna be educational. We've been to Franklin County.
Right.
So we're more than happy to come back.
And we appreciate what y'all are doing. Like I say, we're hearing all good things, so we appreciate it. You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and all y'all, I appreciate y'all coming and hearing this. It's new to all of us, so I'm glad y'all were able to come. Commissioners, we're going to skip number 5, monthly treasury report for December 2020. Brittany?
Good morning. You've got the report in your packets for the Treasurer's Monthly Report, month-end December 31st, 2020. We had a month-end balance of cash on hand invested funds of $42,279,892.92. And I'll entertain any questions you have about the December report.
Commissioners, you got any questions? Not only entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Action item number 6, the monthly treasury report for January 2021.
And you also have January with a month-end balance, January 31st, 2021, $52,296,746.55. Shows an increase of $10 million between the month of December and January. It's all that tax money coming in. You'll also notice on the transfer in and out column that a lot of those funds were transferred to our investment pools to try to gain what little interest it's earning at this point. So, like I said, you'll see that where the money was transferred out of the bank into our investment funds for that month.
Okay, any questions? Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brittany. Action item number 7, the request for a variance of the Hunt County subdivision regulations for the proposed Whitford addition plat on County Road 2586 due to insufficient road frontage on Precinct 2. Yes, please come forward and state your name.
Thank you. I'm Tony Elliston. I am a real estate agent representing Mr. Whitford. We're asking for the variance for the property and the replat on Highway 276. It's a .9 acre tract and that fronts 276 with 6.4 acre tract behind it. The problem is there's not good access to get to that 6.4 acres from the county road. I think you'll have the survey.
Well, it's not, I mean, it has access now until we approve a plat and create a lot off that front county road. It currently has, that whole track is 9 acres, 9.8 acres.
9
as it sits
acres.
today. And the .9 is a historical tract, which you can get a septic permit for, because it's a historical tract. So both tracks have access and both tracks are usable.
But the part behind, okay, the 9.9 acres that fronts the county road, you can only get to the front part of that. You can't get to the back part of that 10 acres.
Mr. Whitford owned the property just to the north of this, I believe, and he sold it as an entire tract, so it's got access. So what you're asking us to do is take 2 legal tracts and turn it into one tract that's legal and one tract that's not, according to our subdivision rules. So why would we as a court want to create a subdivision that doesn't meet our requirements when we got 2 that currently do meet it?
Well, because you can't build on that back track because there's no way to get to it.
It's only because, I mean,
It's in
I get it,
ag.
it enhances the value of the back part of it, I get that part.
It's in
But it's not
ag.
that he can't sell it and can't use it because he's already done that with one tract.
He would have to sell that as a whole.
Correct. He can sell the 10 acres just like he did to the tract to the north, and he can sell the .9 acre
With the 1
tract.
acre
Yeah.
on the frontage.
So he's not being deprived of anything. All he's being deprived of is enhance the value of something that he's trying to do to the detriment of the county and the taxpayers, so.
But in order to build, I mean, we could build the commercial property and take that out of ag, and then the county would gain more taxes from it. And it would be more of a viable piece of property. Usable, viable.
I understand, and it creates other problems also, so. Commissioners, you got any questions? Are you through? I'm sorry.
Do you have anything to say?
Can I speak?
Absolutely.
When I bought the 40,
Mhm.
it was all real swampy down there.
Please state your name first, please.
Craig Whitford.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to need him to come up to the microphone. So
Yes,
No.
please.
Yeah, please.
When I bought the 40, it was a bunch of land drained down into that. So I built a huge pond there, and that really improved all the people's land down there by 276, because it was real swampy with crawdad hills and all that. But that section you're talking about next to it, when I built the pond, I built them a dirt bridge right there across the middle of the pond. And that's the only way they can get to their back. So my property, the 10 acres that's left, the pond stops, the pond goes into that last section about 15 feet, and all ponds, you don't want them drain right out the end because they'll just wash out. It drains to the side, so when it goes into my land, it drains to the side and it goes down through there and it heads towards a big highway culvert. All that is swampy, soft, I can't cross it. So I thought if I bought the 1 acre out front, I could use that for a driveway to get back to the 6.4 back there and turn that into something worthwhile, maybe build, somebody build buildings, have taxes on. But if I have to go down all the way and get on that front part of the 10 acres we're talking about with the big apartments on it, I'd have to cut right through the yard with a very expensive road and then a big bridge to get to the back, so.
And there's septic system back
And
there.
then, yeah, and then
huge septic system.
Yeah, and then behind the apartments, there's a huge, probably 200 by 200 foot section of septic I can't cross either. So I was really just trying to improve that. Like you
Whose
said, trying to
septic
improve
can't
that
you
other-
cross? I'm losing you. You got a map of it?
I have pictures here, if y'all would, if you would like to look at them. I don't have, kind of disturbed that property in orange.
Thank you.
So which ones are the apartments?
The apartments are on the west end.
The 10 acres that we're talking about that I'm splitting, trying to split,
Uh-huh.
they're sitting at the front of it up there on 2586.
Okay, right next to the .9? It's a small apartment complex?
No, it's right here on the county road is the apartment.
Oh, okay, on the piece that you own now currently?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
It's at the corner of 2586 and 276.
okay, got you.
Now, behind it, there's a huge septic system. They maybe put in a huge system I could probably run a small city with. So it takes
Okay.
up the whole back that you see, there's not trees. It goes clear back almost to the pond. And then when the pond drains, it's got all that, all marshy and all that, and it heads to that huge culvert when they get the 4-lane highway department put in.
Okay. Commissioner Jones?
This is the culvert, because of the, how much drainage there is there, they put that giant culvert under there.
Okay,
May I ask a question?
please.
Where those two pools are, you know, there's a section right there, I can't read what the numbers are. But how long has that been there? How long has this water been dammed up right there?
How long has that pond been there?
Yes. Did you build it?
Yes, probably 20 years ago.
But that wash that goes to the culvert, it totally takes care of the drainage for a number of properties in that area.
Yeah, that pond catches it all now and makes their yards much better.
So to make sure I understand, you're saying that if you are not able to, if this is not approved, you have to go around the longer route to access this property.
If
Are you
we
saying
can't
it's-
use the .9 acre I bought for a driveway, we'd have to go down there, go in front of the apartments, and I don't know, I guess we'd have to build a huge road in the front yard of the apartments and try to get around the septic, and then it would have to go back this way towards that fence line to get around where the pond's in the part of that part, and then it's all marshy, so I'd have to build a bridge over that.
Do you have the right-of-way permission to do those things, or?
We owns all of it.
You own all that? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not
He owns
wanting
the
to do all the road
property.
and the bridge.
He's wanting to break it in half.
I was wanting the .9 acres to be pretty much used as a driveway to get to that, all that land back there without having to do all that to the waterway and all.
Commissioner, you got any other questions? Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Commissioner, I entertain a motion.
I don't see how it could be once you open up that door of letting variances go, that, then it just opens up the floodgate for other people to say, hey, you let them have it, why can't I have it?
That's our problem.
And that's the problem we run into, and so.
That's our problem.
I mean, you have the road frontage, you just have to use the whole property if you come off 2584. You'd have the proper road frontage.
I don't think you can come off 25, maybe not according to your rules now. There's not enough road frontage on it.
Well, if all these two properties added together, doesn't that give you enough road frontage? Because you have
So 150 feet of road frontage.
you have 150 here, if that's connected to that. And is that not correct?
Well, you're adding 150 feet of road frontage on 276, but I'm talking about on 2580, you've only got 250 feet of road frontage.
That would be all one property then, wouldn't it? Is that not right, Judge? I'm sorry.
It's staying, I mean, they can leave it as it currently is a 9-point-whatever acre tract. If it's got 250 foot of frontage and they built a road to the back, they could leave that front piece with 150 foot and have an acre or up to 2 acres of land and still have room to dedicate a road and build a road and then do something in the back if they can mitigate the water problem they have.
And Hunt County would all of a sudden start gaining $20,000 a year in tax revenues instead of $10 a year.
We understand that, sir. Of course, it's, you know, part of the reason we've enacted some of the rules we have is if we allow this, part of the reason is you're gonna go in there and you're gonna build a long driveway and you're gonna put buildings back in there. And then if we have to send fire trucks out and ambulances, we're having problems all over the county where we can't get to emergency situations, putting lives in danger. And every situation we can try to attempt not to have that kind of problem happen, we've got to try to do that. And if you're gonna make one big track out of this and make a big commercial situation in there, there's no way we can enforce you to make us a big turnaround and make it where all our equipment can get in and out of there.
Judge, just for my educational purposes, when was this plating process begun?
Well, this didn't meet our old rules.
Okay,
And they
that's
were-
where I was going, was
Yeah.
did it meet the
It doesn't
old
meet our
rules?
old rules or our new rules.
This is in 2001.
Can I speak?
No, you've had your time, sir, I'm sorry. Commissioners?
I'll make a motion, we don't approve this. The variance.
What was his motion?
That dies for lack of a second. Is there any other motion? Hearing no other motion, the item fails for lack of a motion. Action item number 8 is be struck. Action number 9, the request to construct, Daniel, is this the one, the gas line that we're not doing?
Yeah,
Number 9?
Yeah.
We're on table it?
Old bit, yes.
Yeah.
Well, not table it, but move to old bit.
Move it to old business, okay. 9's moved to old business. Action item number 10, the request to construct electrical power distribution facilities across County Road 2591 in Precinct 2.
I make a motion, we approve the electrical power distribution under County Road 2591 with usual stipulations.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
On number 9, I think, are you Mr. Wong? I'm filling in for Mr. Wong. Okay, there's a representative from C Energy, and we want to hear from him.
Okay, all right, we'll back up. Number 9, request to construct gas trunk line on County Road 2586 Precinct 2. If you come forward and state your name.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Oliva. How are y'all today?
Good.
Good, good. I'm here to answer any questions. One thing I did notice is that on the agenda, it says 2586. The roads we're doing are 2658 and 2656.
Oh, yeah.
This is in the ETJ of Roy City. We're a utility company trying to serve the Valor Farms.
What's the name of it?
Valor Farms.
Valley Farms?
Valor Farms.
Okay.
Valor.
Okay,
Valor.
gotcha.
I believe there was some confusion. I'm here to clear anything up, and I apologize, Mr. Wong couldn't be here today, but filling in, I'll do the best I can.
Okay, Daniel?
Yeah, there is, here, let me come over. I think there's some potential issues with the language for the relative to the right-of-way. I called and left a message for Mr. Wong yesterday. He tried to call me back, but we haven't had a chance to hook up about that issue. There's some of the language might lead to some issues that will cost the county money later down the line, and there's a question about whether those the exact language is legal or constitutional. So that's why I'm requesting that this be put on old business for 2 weeks from now, so we can, you know, finalize those issues and work through that specific language.
Okay.
Your Honor, may
Sure.
I say something? In actuality, we finally got where the red line is as far as this, where it's going. It's a low pressure aspect, okay? And I noticed that when you wrote that letter, it says, I understand, well, thank you for your help, but it says also basically how deep that this county would require for it to be, you know, dug and how deep. Well, the thing about this is in actuality laws in reference to the state of Texas of what those will be. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
In fact, most of them, it's not up to our decision, basically, it's what is required by transportation in reference to that. I did not realize that there were so many of these, and it concerned me, as plastic pipes that have gone. I don't believe that we have any as such, with the exception of the cities and stuff like this, out on county roads, but this is actually going into it. And utilities, in reference to utilities, I've also found out, and I was talking to Bob Bass, which is a right-of-way person, that utilities within the utilities, even including this, within the right-of-way, but it would be up to the discretion of how, as far as what's required by law, as far as depth and what location. The other thing is that a lot of times the people, you have supposedly that being looked at, and I believe Daniel Ray's gonna look into it further, but you also had the ability to try to get this pipe, this plastic, polyurethane, whatever it is, in reference to on people's property, okay? In which that would probably cost you more to get, like on the water companies. But that one thing, basically, the installation and what we're gonna require, that would be according to the laws that are already regulated, not just necessarily us.
Yes, sir. May I add to that, sir?
Pardon?
So what I understand is that the issue wasn't necessarily the depth. We would follow what the Railroad Commission requires, which is 3 to 4
I
feet.
would think that you want to, because that's why they have the
Yes,
laws.
sir. Yes, sir. I think the issue was, initially was that we would be in the right of way, but if the county would want to expand that road, whose dime would it be to move that line? That
It would be yours.
On our dime.
That's right.
The confusion here was, if the county does decide to expand the road, the acquisition of right-of-way for utilities along that road would be on the county.
And that's probably something we're not gonna be willing to do. I'm not. I mean,
right.
y'all are no different than any other utility company that has that same problem. They go to private property owners to get the easements and put it on private property. Then if we do expand the roads, it's just like the state highway department. If you're in a state highway right-of-way and they expand the right-of-way, it's up to your dollars to move it and go get a new easement. All utilities now along state highways are getting their own easements.
Right.
That way, if the TxDOT widens it, then they have to pay you to move it. And to me, it's the same scenario if we have that same authority. That if you're in our right-of-way and we expand it, you gotta move it, and if we don't allow it in our new right-of-way, then you'd have to get a private easement, so.
Right, right.
Seems like to me, it'd be more advantageous to go ahead and get you a private easement across adjacent owners, and, at least where you can. I mean, if you can't in some areas, you might have to come back into our right-of-way, but.
Given that if you all would want to widen that road, all we'd request is for a 180-day notice, and then we'd work on the easement part ourselves.
Right.
But for now, we'd like to be in the right of way, and then we could get that pipe out of there and move it somewhere else.
Well, where you're at, I'm assure you, with the number of developments and traffic in that area, that right-of-way is gonna be widened at some point in time in the near future, so.
Sure.
I'd encourage y'all to try to do something different, but, I appreciate you being here
Yeah.
today and explaining it. We'll, take it to old business at the next meeting, give Daniel time to make sure we got everything legal,
Yes, sir.
and we'll go from there.
All right,
Thank you
appreciate
for your
everyone's
time. You bet.
Thank you. Good morning.
Action item 11, request to construct electrical power distribution facilities across County Road 3625, Precinct 3.
I make a motion, we allow this construction with the normal stipulation.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Action item 12, the final plat of Erman Estates in Precinct 1.
This is one, they'd originally submitted this, we had several comments on it. Due to the 200-foot septic buffer zone around the floodplain, it really limited one of the lots. There was very little buildable space. So we had the surveyor add the 200-foot septic buffer line on there so it can be seen readily, and they also combined 2 lots to make the one Lot 3 down on the south end. Other than that, it's fairly straightforward plat, other than being encumbered by the floodplain that is clearly shown where they can build and what they can use.
So how, I mean, I'm still on lot 3, if that's with a 200-foot buffer zone, they don't have much room
They don't have much room.
for our septic system, and is that a half acre?
I don't know if that's a
I
half
see
acre
the
or not.
outside the floodplain of 4.12 acres, but if they can't put the septic in that other area, is that other spot a half acre? Looks like it probably should be, but
It should be, just by looks of it, and I can request them to put,
acreage on it.
buildable acreage outside of that buffer on there if we need to see that, verify that they've got, over what they need for their septic zone and their sprinkle zone.
I think, I mean, on lot 2 also, I mean, I think it clearly has enough. It's got 300 foot of frontage, and, we got a 25-foot building line there, so they
Right.
should have enough room without any problem. This other one, I don't know. I think any motion that we make, if we approve it, should have a requirement that they add, and there is at least that amount of money, that amount of land, for the septic.
Okay.
Commissioners, I entertain a motion for approval of action item number 12 with a stipulation that the surveyors show on the plat on lot 3 that the amount of acreage within the buildable part of the lot for a septic system.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 13, we got to move to old business next time, is that correct?
Yes, 13, due to the notification process, we'll have to go for the 23rd.
Okay. Action item 14, preliminary plat of Caddo Crossing addition in Precinct 2.
This is the one that, we have an engineering report from our secondary engineer. She reviewed, had some comments on their preliminary drainage plan that they submitted to us. What the engineer and the surveyor are looking for, or the engineer and the developer are looking for on this one, they'd like to have an approval of the preliminary plat so that they can start their construction plans. They don't want to get into construction plans and have to redo them if we request any changes on it. So there were some comments from the reviewing engineer that will have to be addressed on construction plans in order to adhere to our engineering standards. And
So any approval would have to be,
It would
it'd
have
be
to be a
approved subject
condition.
to all of those conditions of our
Which our new
engineer.
rules will allow construction plans to be submitted after preliminary
Right,
approval,
yeah.
before final plat is approved and finalized.
Commissioner, you got any questions? I think that's a reasonable request, not to have to spend all that money and then we actually turn it down at some point.
Right.
So
Right.
I think that's fair enough, so entertain a motion for approval of preliminary plat of Caddo Crossing addition, conditioned on that the construction plans answer all the questions by our consulting engineer.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve that preliminary plat along with the approval of the construction plans.
Second.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. The revision of the replat of lots 2 and 4 of Allen Farms in Precinct 2 approved by the Commissioners Court December 8th, 2020.
What we've got is, back in December, y'all approved a replat. He went through and got an extra lot or something, it adhered to the subdivision rules, no problem. There was a section of land at the south end of this that was actually owned by the neighbor across the road. So it just kind of severed access to the south end of this lot.
Kind of goofy, yeah.
He was able to acquire that just about the time that we were going through the approval process of this. So he's well, just kind of cleaning it up a little bit. Instead of the neighbor across the road owning a very unusable piece of land, now it's becoming part of this replat, or part of this lot, so it's actually usable.
Okay, on comment I had, I just happened to notice when I was reviewing it yesterday, Allen Farms on lot 1 and 3 is misspelled.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
A-L-L-E-N, and this is A-L-L-A-N, I believe, Farms.
Okay. I'll
If
certainly
you
get with
them
the
police
surveyor
correct,
on
so
that.
it doesn't look
Have
too
them,
bad. I entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion, we approve the final plat.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 16 is going to old business also.
Same thing. It'll have to go for the 23rd due to the notification process.
All right, we're going to skip 17, 18, 19, approval of accounts payable.
I make a motion, we pay the bills.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Approval of line item transfers.
Make a motion for approval for line item transfers.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Approval of budget amendments.
Make a motion for approval of budget amendments.
Second.
I guess we need to wait on payroll and personnel. Anybody got anything else? Are we getting comments from the public yet?
Yes.
Well, this time we'll hear public testimony.
Both of these are emails related to road and flooding issues. I've sent emails to, both of these requesters sent in their comments on Friday evening. I've sent them emails back asking if they wanted to be called for court today, but I haven't heard from either one of them. First one is from Heather Alexander that says that they live at a specific road that I'll send to the commissioner so that it's not public necessarily for their protection. But they live at a certain road and have discussed this issue with their commissioner. Now that the improvements have been made to the west side of that road from flooding, it's done nothing but completely flood our property. It's rapidly approaching our house, and we have concerns that it's going to fill our septic tank. This was not near as bad before the county made the improvements to the roads. The ditches along the road on the east side must be fixed. The water needs to be diverted better as it is now eroding our property. That wasn't actually sent to the commissioner whose precinct that's in, but I forwarded that just now. So the other comment, and this is from, it's signed by the Drews family, sent from an email that starts with Christy D. And I sent her an email asking if she wanted to have this call in, and I have not heard back. But she says, I've requested several times in the past 4 months to have the holes repaired on our road. And again, I'll send this to the commissioner that's at issue, or that is over that road. A layer of crushed asphalt was applied previously, but it quickly developed many holes and rough patches. Can someone please make the necessary repairs? Also, with all the development out here, we now have vehicles that drive down this road at high speeds. I've reported that to the Hunt County Sheriff's Office and was told there was no regulation of speed on county roads. Many of us out here are concerned about all the kids. What would it take to have a few speed bumps installed? I would take speed bumps over the loss of a child or pet to someone's recklessness any day. So just to be clear, those speeds are regulated, and no, we cannot put in speed bumps.
We got potholes.
Sure. Those are the only two public comments. There's not any other public comments so far.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, this time I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, Motion carries. Okay, I've hit send. Is it up? We're up, okay. It's 1:24, we're back in regular session. Action item number 1, a resolution extending or modifying the April 28, 2020 COVID-19 related resolution and social distancing guidelines to prevent the spread of COVID-19.
This is similar to the past 9 in a row. The dates have changed to move up 2 weeks. The only major difference here is that under item 2C and 2D, this order is specifically subject to the limitations that may be imposed by the administrative district judges or judge bench, or their previous orders. And then under number D, that it's specifically subject to the limitations from the governor. And the governor is in a separate branch of the government from the district courts, which are part of the state through the judicial branch. And so that's why there's 2 items in here, because we are subject to both. And so that GA 34 is easily Googleable. The other orders will be put on the county's website if you choose to adopt this version.
Okay, I entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Possible termination of COVID contact tracing team contract with Stat Medical. I want to say for the record that I don't know how we can thank Lori Aaron enough for stepping forward and helping us. And on behalf of myself and all the citizens of Hunt County, Lori, we appreciate you and everything that you did and your team did. I've discussed with her, and we've agreed that it's time that we turn the contact tracing over to the state and let the state do it from this point forward. And the contract, I believe, calls for a 30-day notice, which is what we'll be doing today, is giving her a 30-day notice to termination of the contract. So, Daniel, you got any?
No, if you approve this, all it takes is an oral resolution. Then I'll work with Bobby's office to put that letter together, get it to her as quickly as possible. It might be tomorrow morning, but either today or tomorrow, she'll have the 30-day notice that's required under the contract. And then we'll work with her to finalize operations through the health department, and then health department will be contacting the Department of State Health Services to confirm with them their takeover of future reporting.
Okay. I think I'll go ahead and add one other thing I failed to mention. I think that when we hired Stat early on in COVID, with them being in the county and their commitment to the county and doing the work they did on the contact tracing, there's not a question in my mind that we didn't save some people from contacting COVID and probably save some lives because of the work they put in. They put in a lot of long hours and was very committed to making sure that they did everything they could to stop COVID. And we've come to the day where there's so much contact, there's just so much community spread that nobody knows where they contacted it anymore. So it's really made tracing almost impossible. So very seldom do they get a time where they can actually trace it back to where somebody came in contact with somebody that had COVID. So,
Sure. I'd like to say this too. I'd appreciate the leadership that you have had in reference to this COVID. Also, Richard Hill,
Trooper.
They've been doing fantastic, and I also appreciate, along with the other commissioners, good job that the contact tracing team has done.
They've done a great job, and I tell you, I mean, Richard Hill's department has put in lots of hours for the county taking care of all of this, and having, you know, it's one of those things that just kind of, you know, we kind of fell into stupid luck, whatever you want to call it, when we lost our old health department head and couldn't find anybody qualified at the time, and Richard took it. What a great deal. I mean, it made, Lori said several times how much easier it made when they actually had to go out to some houses and talk to people to tell them to stay home and not do things. And when they could go out there with law enforcement officers with them, it made a huge difference and had a big impact. So the commitment from all of Richard Hill and his team is been fantastic during this. And again, me personally, and I think the taxpayers all thank them for everything they've done. Entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 17, an order abolishing the position of joint elections administrator and appointing the county clerk to serve as voter registrar and assume all of the duties of the joint election administrator.
All right, as we've discussed, I have a potential change here. This will be to section number 4, and I'll go over that in a second. But the general effect of this would be by abolishing the joint elections administrator position, the state law requires a reversion of certain duties to 2 elected officials. The voter registrar generally would go back to the tax office, and everything else would go to the county clerk's office. This is, as we have discussed to some degree, a temporary measure because the law doesn't allow us to do everything in one meeting to make some of the changes that everyone's apparently interested in making. And so part of the changes here to the thing that you have in your packet would be related to who is going to be in charge of some of this, and then who is going to be in charge of those people. If you approve this, and assuming that Mr. Weiniger signs his agreement, then all of the obligations that the current joint elections administrator has would then go to the county clerk's office until a separate elections office or department is established. And if Mr. Weiniger wants to continue being the voting registrar, then he can decide not to agree with this. But I haven't talked to him about that. So someone will have to do that after today if you approve this. Under number 4, first of all, does anybody have any questions about the rest of this before I read over the changed language? Okay. Under number 4, I would take out a couple of words and add in a couple of others. This is number 4 on the first page of the order. It's at the very bottom. So if the judge would like, he can ask for a motion to approve it subject to these changes. The change would make the end of the sentence read, in connection with the appointment of an elections coordinator to serve under the Commissioner's Court and under the supervision of the county judge until an elections department or office may be established.
I entertain a motion for approval of that.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action item 18, in order approving a separation agreement of Jose Martinez following the abolishment of the position of joint elections administrator.
All right, you have in front of you the separation agreement and general release. Basically, under this agreement, Mr. Martinez has agreed to stick around through the end of May, through the next election, and continue to collect his the same salary that he has, but to assist in any sort of changeover that there may be from the establishment of an elections department or office. By doing that, he will be in a position to provide information and potentially guidance to other people who are working with this office, either through the county clerk's office or through the person that we just talked about, potentially being hired under the Commissioner's Court.
Entertain a motion for approval of action item number 18.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action item 19, the hiring of Shelley Jeanne as election coordinator.
This goes along with the changes that we just made to the abolishment section. The commissioner, or if the judge would like to, he can ask for motions to hire Shelley Jeanne as the elections coordinator. and then to serve specifically under the Commissioner's Court for the next 2 weeks or however long it takes to establish an elections office or department. If you do approve this, she would also, subject to the things that you just adopted, she would be under the direct control, supervisory control of the judge. She would work with Mina Cook, and then they would work just by general agreement with the county clerk's office to continue moving forward with the planning for the May election so that we don't lose any time on that. Her salary would need to be affected by or made possible basically 2 weeks from now by doing a budgetary amendment to move the elections office budget into the right locations to cover her pay and benefits.
Entertain a motion for approval of action item 19.
So move.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Approval of payroll and personnel.
I make a motion, we pay the bills.
No, we're not paying the bills. We've already done that. Payroll and personnel.
Oh, shoot, I'm sorry. Make a motion that we approve payroll and personnel.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Has any other comments come in, Daniel? Since we've been off air for a while. Okay, I entertain a motion for adjournment.
No, sir. We
Yep.
have one more in reference to approving a person that's over the executive commissioner's
Oh, you're right. Thank
executive
you.
assistant.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I make a motion that we have Bart Hutchins, which is Commissioner of Precinct 1, be a supervisor over the Commissioner's Court executive assistant.
A second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now I entertain a motion for adjournment. Thank you, Philip.
I so move.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? We're adjourned at 1:36. What a marathon. Let's see.
We was spoilt on them last